So let's move on to the next section where we dive a little bit deeper into challenges and opportunities. So now we talked about the shadow AI challenge that we have, risk of using public LLMs, and there's lots of stats associated with that as well. But there is risk of your employees knowingly and unknowingly cutting and pasting stuff into public LLMs. So there are lots of examples for that. And what are you going to do around that? That's just one example, but there's other ways. There are tools that come with AI built in. How do you know? I mean, a classic example is the note takers that come in as well. Where does the data go? Where does the data live? Right? Conversations are recorded. And then the impact and fear of AI, which is really important. We need to address that, and also risk of AI mistakes. So we'll go into a little bit more on that. And then we'll talk about specific use cases that around specific opportunities and specific types of agents that you can build in NFPs. Okay, the first challenge. I guess the main one is to reduce the risk of your organization, your user cutting and pasting stuff into public LLMs. I'll hand over to Dan to talk about the work we do around deploying your corporate chat and the policies and everything, which is also relevant to one of the questions.
Yeah, thank you, Raji. Like I was mentioning earlier, before you actually start jumping in and deploying technology and starting up projects and starting to deploy agents across your environment, the first thing you need to have is that governance structure behind that. You need to understand what you intend on doing, how does that align to your business goals and objectives as well, and then the environment that it sits within. So the AI agents or any technology that you deploy doesn't sit in isolation. It sits within, let's say, for example, your M365 tenant. And so you need to understand what security controls you already have in place currently in there. So do you have things like multi-factor authentication in place? Do you have data loss prevention configurations in place? How have you actually set up all of that tooling in the background before you even start deploying AI agents or start using this technology in any form? And so that's one of the things we also help our customers with. We have a Microsoft 365 security assessment that we do initially. It gives them a very good lay of the land as to what's the current state and where potential gaps are. And that's something, I guess, it's a lot of good information for you to go in before you start deploying. So we talk about governance. We talk about having a sound environment with sound controls before you actually start deploying AI technology in there. And the last one I would like to really focus on is, training your people. Your people are your front line. You're the first line of defense. I guess getting that training across your staff, getting them to understand the risks of using AI, how do you actually use this technology safely and securely? How does it actually align to your internal policies and your governance structure? It's quite important for them to get on the same page, because you'll find that a lot of risk is reduced as a result of that. Just using the technology securely, even if there are, let's say, potential gaps. Let's say you've already deployed something insecurely across your organization. There's gaps in there. You probably know about it. It's in your risk register. But if your staff are trained to implement or use that technology safely, you reduce some of that risk. So focus on the training of your internal employees as well. So that's that's potential ways of reducing the risk in the organization. And then, of course, select your tools carefully as to what tools you're going to use. Something like Copilot would be deployed within your tenancy. It would inherit all of your existing security controls. There's data residency considerations in there. There's data protection considerations in there. There's a lot of controls that Microsoft put in place as well with Copilot. So there's a lot to leverage, and happy to go into that in some more detail in another session if you're keen. But that's all I had on that slide, Raji. If you was there anything else you wanted me to touch on, or happy to?
That's pretty much. I'll touch on the Copilot chat component. So added to what Dan was saying, most organizations already have E3 or E5 licenses or very specific other license SKUs as well. They already have Copilot chat as part of it. This is the Copilot chat. This is not the paid version of Copilot, right? And what it is it gives you a corporate version of ChatGPT or Gemini, and it comes with Microsoft Enterprise Data Protection, so which means that it's secured in your tenancy. That data is private. There's policies associated with that, and they are protected against copyright and other aspects of it. So I know there was a copyright question as well. So there is, so that means it's a really good way to get your staff using corporate version of like a large language model. And the other thing it's important is there's a question around agents, which I'll touch on it. If you want to roll out more sophisticated AI solutions, that even AI solutions that requires human oversight and anything like that, your staff need to know how to use AI in a corporate context, how to use chat, how to use prompting. So what we have a program will help you to work out what settings and what the how you want to configure Copilot chat. And then, as Dan mentioned, there's a free assessment around the Microsoft M365 environment. So I think that is in itself, a number of our customers are rolling out if you haven't already rolled out. So what that means, it reduces shadow AI risk, because you're giving them an option and you're putting the right guardrails in, and you're getting your staff ready for future AI transformation pieces. Okay. The next one I'm going to talk about a little bit is impact and fear of AI. Now, this is a tough one to discuss, but there are ways to handle that as well. So as we mentioned, human-centered AI is one of the main approaches that we take. What I have seen is that there's an interesting statistic around 31% of employees sabotage your Gen AI strategy. So I have also seen this in firsthand. So if you want AI projects to be successful, you have to get your subject matter experts, the people who are impacted, part of that initial discovery very early on in the stage. So messaging, humans augmentation, not replacement, have your policies, training and education, and include them, identify early what their pains and gains are and address that. And, another good tool, a lot of organizations have built an ideas portal where anyone can put how the AI can help them, or any automation, anything can help them. So get them part of that journey, and that makes a huge difference for the success of projects. I have seen projects that are rolled out, hasn't adopted because, and then it's been also backlash against that. So I think it's really important to set that message from up front. Okay. The next challenge we're going to talk about is AI risk. So the main important thing is it's not one solution for everything, right? It's not like we give everything to an AI solution and that's it. When you are rolling out AI solutions, one of the most important things to understand is that it can make things up, which is called hallucinations. So you need to have what's called human in the loop, or HIO, human in the middle. You need to have staff who can review the output or part of that decision-making process, so you can validate and verify. Ensure accuracy and put the right controls and oversights. It also gives them an opportunity to learn about how AI behaves. Now, if you learn how it behaves, then you can actually work with them, make it useful. Okay, keep going. All right. So I've seen similar diagrams before, is where human in the loop is working this way. So basically what it is that AI will make a decision or create content or do something. And if it's highly accurate up to a certain percentage, that could go into a system, and then you have human review process if it's not. But even if it's highly accurate, how do you know that? So one of the things I crossed it out is that in the very early stages, you want to have human in the loop from pretty much every single thing you do until you're comfortable with that. And in certain scenarios, you would not have that end-to-end fully automated. And that's the reality of it. So tip is that customers come in and say, we want to build a chatbot or an AI assistant to get our customers to come into our website and get some information. What I suggest is deploy something like that internally first, learn from it, and get your staff who are subject matter expert to use it. And have a human review process and tools to review it. As part of the process, provide citations. So because AI, if you're using AI that's connected to a knowledge base, it'll give an answer back. But do you have the links to the source? So you need to validate the source. And train users on prompting and human in the middle review and fact checking. And the key thing is select the right use cases. AI can't solve every problem. It doesn't is suited for most things. And then important thing is selecting the right use case. And we could have a separate session just on that piece alone. So now I'm going into a little bit more on examples. So a very simple example. Now you could do it as part of, if you want to do Copilot chat, which is, you get an email, you can draft a response using chat, and then you can do that. You can actually review it and then send it to the customer. Or if you have the paid version, which can do it in Outlook automatically. But even within systems, if imagine that you have in your service ticketing platform or an email comes in, you can automatically draft that email, something simple, and that could save you a lot of time. But the key thing is there's somebody reviewing it and authorizing. And I'll talk about a specific example associated with that.